What is up, my WAP movie realists? Once again, I am Matt. We are back for another real review. And I'm so excited because this personally was one of my most anticipated films of the year. I have been looking forward to this, not just because of the subject matter, but because of the cast of up and coming young stars in this that are from the industry. That's none other than Saturday Night, the movie about the first ever Saturday Night Live episode and the 90 minutes before it went live. And let me tell you, this is insane. Now, everybody grew up, for the most part, hearing live from New York, it's Saturday night. But to see what it took for us to get there is incredible. I remember watching my first SNL episode. I was like 10 or 11, it's late at night, helping my dad build like a new desk. And this film kind of invoked those feelings in me because it's one of those things where in SNL, everyone remembers what their first episode is. And I think that's important. Or I shouldn't say what the first episode was, but remembers the first time that they ended up watching it. And it took me back to that because at the end of the day, SNL, while it has had its ups and downs, the passion that everyone on that cast and crew has leading into the episodes is what makes it so special. So, leading into that, the cast and crew for Saturday Night was just absolutely stellar. Jason Reitman's the director. Last film he did was Ghostbusters Afterlife. He was the co-author for the story for the sequel, which wasn't the biggest fan of, but that's okay. And this was something that was really important to him to make, and honestly, I loved it. I first out, the cast is stellar. Starting off with Gabriel LaBelle from the Fablemans fame, great. Just the fact that he was able to capture the energy I've seen of Lorne Michaels just when he's been on like the 40th anniversary special or any time I've seen an interview of his. It was really interesting, and I've been a fan since seeing him in the Fablemans. He was just absolutely stellar. Another standout, Rachel Sennott, who plays Rosie Schuster, who also happens to be Lorne Michaels' ex-wife and the co-producer on the show. I wish I got more with her, but in the time that she had, she was great. But the real show stealers are the cast members, like the SNL cast members. Cory Michael Smith is Chevy Chase. Dylan O'Brien is Dan Aykroyd. Matt Wood, just killing it, is John Belushi. LaMorne Morris is Garrett Morris. Ella Hunt as Gilda Radner. Emily Farron as Lorraine Newman, and so many more. I just feel like, especially in the case of Cory Michael Smith and Dylan O'Brien, considering I still grew up watching those actors in general, I didn't grow up on the original SNL, so I can't really speak on the Belushi of it all or the Garrett Morris. But I did grow up watching films with Chevy Chase in it and Dan Aykroyd, so I can speak on them more than others. They really captured the energy of those two actors. Excuse me. Just the behind the scenes stories you hear about Chevy Chase, whether it be in his time on Community or his film career or even SNL, it was captured to a T. I felt like I was watching Chevy Chase, and that might be partly because out of all the cast members, Cory Michael Smith looks the most like the comedian that he's playing. Dylan O'Brien, I've been a big fan of his since his Teen Wolf days. I know everybody fell in love with Styles, but I think him as Dan Aykroyd was just something I needed to see from him. It was a different level. I know people saw him in Maze Runner, and he's kind of just missed the bill for stuff because I know there was rumors for a while that he'd be Nightwing when the DCU was still going on, and there was supposed to be that film from Chris McKay. And it sucks because it seems like he's about to get these projects that would shoot him into the next level of stardom, and they just fall apart and don't happen. It was nice to see him get an opportunity like this because he knocked it out the park. His Aykroyd was said to be aloof on set behind the scenes, and he definitely captured that. And when he had a moment of comeuppance, I just couldn't help but laugh, and it was great, and it just felt right within the story of the show. Um, I do also want to say that after seeing this, I went back and watched the original episode of SNL. I made sure I did that because someone who just has very few scenes but stole the show and what they did was Nicholas Braun. A lot of people who do know Nicholas Braun know him as the cousin from Succession, and he was great in that. I originally met Nicholas Braun in in Sky High and Perks of Being a Wallflower. He was the best friend who glowed. Yeah, my superpower is glowing. See, yeah. But he had dual roles in this because he played Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman. And as Andy Kaufman, he captured the energy of the famous comedian. And I use that term loosely because Kaufman famously said he's an anti-comedian. Because comedians actually have to tell jokes, and he never did that. And then he also plays Jim Henson, and how Henson was essentially just dealing with nobody giving respect to these Muppets and all this, and how SNL ultimately ended up playing a role in the getting the Muppets out to the masses. And I thought that was really, but that's just besides the point. Either way, just if you know the history of Jim Henson and know that he's known for being someone who didn't really curse, or even though his characters spoke very lewdly and did lewd actions at times. And if you've watched the first episode of SNL, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or even some of the Muppets over the years, you know what I'm talking about. Henson himself did not project himself that way. So I think Braun did a fantastic job covering it. In terms of script, it's a little all over the place, but when you're telling a story about 90 minutes before the first SNL, if you know anything about SNL, it's always all over the place. And I just had so much fun. You can see why SNL became such a cultural phenomenon from that point and has lasted 50 seasons. Granted, have numbers gone up and down over the years? Yes, but that's said to happen. But SNL also inspired a lot of stuff that affected my childhood, like All That, which famously enough is where Kenan Thompson got his start, and now he's the longest running member in SNL history. So if I'm giving this film a rating, it's without a doubt a 4 out of 5 reels. I had so much fun with it. The casting of just crazy zany characters and feeling like you stepped back into history was cool to me. Just the performances were stellar, and I just really couldn't ask for anything else when it came to an SNL movie. So I had so much fun visiting and spending time in this world. And I'm probably gonna go back and see that either tonight, which yes, it comes out tonight, or tomorrow, which I know is technically the opening weekend. So just go see it. It's just smaller films like this don't really get made as much anymore. And it's important that we support them and do that, because the more we support these films and give these smaller budget films the light of day, the more of these you get. So please be sure to check that out. But also, if you haven't already, check out our What Real Gaming channel that is up. That is our sister channel. It's separate from here, but that's where all of our Twitch streams go to live after the fact. And I'm excited just because Taylor's been doing a fantastic job over there with that. And it's really important to just keep all that going. And also, that means follow us on Twitch, which is just twitch.tv/WhatRealEnt, like in this top corner right here, and just have some fun. But most importantly, tomorrow, for those Superman and DC fans out there, is the first episode of our new podcast, Views from Metropolis, a podcast on the Man of Steel leading into James Gunn's Superman from his birthplace. So, considering Cleveland is Metropolis, be sure to check out Views from Metropolis. First episode drops on that tomorrow, and that will be exploring Smallville Season 1. But with that, folks, thank you for tuning in. I am Matt. This was another Real Review, and we'll see you next time.